Hello, friends. I'm back. I have decided that I cannot land. I've tried a couple of times to fly from Solberg Airport to Sky Manor Airport, and I get over there to Sky Manor and I get all panicky because of that electric power line tower that's right at the beginning of the runway. So I'm not doing that. Um, what I have decided is I need to figure out how to land better. So I am gonna go back and do that tutorial. I know a few days ago I said, oh man, I'm just itching to fly, so I'm not gonna do these tutorials. Well, I got that out of my system. I learned that these tutorials are really here for a good reason. They're to help teach me. So if I look at the landing one, and I'm not even going to do anything fancy, I'm not going to try and fly a whole pattern. I'm just going to come in straight and see if I can't get this bird on the ground safely. I have never been able to do it. I've practiced a couple of times before jumping on and streaming, and every time I've crashed. So I presume I'm going to crash again. But there's probably one really important thing here that they're trying to teach me that I presume I had forgotten. When you're coming in on final for landing, you really are not using the elevator so much to control your descent. You're doing it all with engine power. So you want to cut your power so that the airplane doesn't have enough forward momentum to overcome gravity. Therefore, you start to descend. You want to come down at a nice, steady 300 feet per minute kind of a descent. You use the flaps. So early on, when you still have some pretty good airspeed, you just need one notch of flaps. That's 10 degrees on the Cessna. As you get in a little closer and you're going a little bit slower, you put in a second notch of flaps, which is 20 degrees. And then finally, when you're almost ready to land, you go to all 30. These flaps, what they do is they lower the airspeed at which your airplane will stall. So you can come in slower with flaps than you could without flaps. And coming in slower should theoretically make landing easier. Let's give it a try. Let's start this tutorial. It's going to put us in the air already with the runway in front of us. So, we're not going to have to like find where the runway is and everything else. This is actually should be a pretty quick tutorial. So let's give it a go. Looks like it's taken a minute or two to load. I'm not sure why that took so long. All right, I hear some noise, so we just about there, I think.
The runway is straight ahead. Reduce throttle to 50% and apply 1 degree of flaps. Stay in line with the runway about a hand's width above the glare shield. You are aiming to descend at around 300 feet per minute and 60 knots. The runway is straight ahead. Reduce throttle.
The runway is straight ahead of me. I can see the runway. 300 feet of descent. You can see on the vertical speed indicator. I'm a little higher than that. She's telling me to reduce throttle to 50%. It's hard for me to tell what percent I'm at. The joystick is looking like right around 50, so we'll see. And we are no longer descending. We're up at 1,100 feet, so I think I'm going to go and cut the throttle a little bit more. Try and keep this airplane in line with the runway. I don't want to be drifting too far left or right. All right, we're at 1,000 feet. That airport is at 37 feet, so we need to drop 1,000 feet here. Doesn't look like it out the window, right? It looks like we're already pretty low. We're down to about 75 knots airspeed. All right. And if you ask me, I really want this second degree of flaps. I don't hear them. When I push the button, I am not hearing the flap. And I think I'm too low. Look at this. Like, come on, Jack. Let's put a little more throttle in and try not to land here in the grass. All right, get back online with this runway. And now I can cut the throttle some more. All right. All right, see how fast this
Let
came
down
down?
the second step of flaps and aim at the beginning of the runway. Use throttle to control your descent rate rather than
I just
altitude.
barely touched the throttle and this thing started
Let
falling
down
like
your
a rock.
final set of flaps and continue to descend. Stay lined up with the middle of the runway.
Yeah, this is so disappointing, right? You know, I don't know what it is with this airplane.
Let down your final set of flaps and continue to descend. Stay lined up with the middle of the runway.
Ay, ay, ay. I want to see if the flaps are really in. Yeah, see, this is the flaps. That's back up to
Set
20.
your final set of flaps by
That's
pressing.
back up to 10. And that's no flaps. So pushing the button is working. That's using the button on the joystick. All right. All right, I don't know. Let's give it one more try, and then I'm gonna quit and go have dinner. What I'm learning is it's super touchy. I'm gonna carry a little more.
The runway is straight ahead. Reduce throttle to 50% and apply 1 degree of flaps. Stay
Yeah,
aligned
if
with
I
the
do that, I
runway without
crash,
the
so I'm
hands
not
with the
listening to
flare
her.
shield. You are aiming to descend at around 300 feet per minute and 60 knots. Set 1 step of flaps by pressing. Reduce throttle to 50%.
I'm nose high. Like, why is this thing so nose high? I reduced, you could hear it. I reduced throttle. There's no way it should be nose high. And now I'm descending way more than I want to. I only want it's climbing. And let's try and keep it on. Let's try and keep ourselves in line with that airport, that runway. I'm definitely coming down faster than I want. So I'm adding more flaps.
Let down the second step of flaps and aim at the beginning of the runway. Use throttle to control your descent rate rather than altitude. Let down your final set of flaps and continue to descend. Stay lined up with the middle of the runway.
You want to stall right at like a foot above the ground.
Let down your final set of flaps and continue to descend. Stay lined up with the middle of the runway.
I don't
Let
know.
down your final set of flaps and continue to descend. Stay lined up with the middle of the runway.
I don't know what she's talking about. I'm on the ground. She's talking about still adding flaps. So this tutorial sucks. There's something wrong with this software. This is not what it should be.
Let down your final set of flaps and continue to descend. Stay lined up with the middle of the runway.
Let me stop the tutorial. All right. Stopped. That was probably the best I've ever done. Kind of sort of kept in line. I'm going to try another airplane because something is telling me that this airplane is just like super touchy. Um, just like one tiny little movement on the throttle, and this thing goes from climbing to like crashing. So something's wrong. I'm trying to figure it out. That's why I've done a few practice runs to see if I can't figure some of this out. But I don't know. It's going nowhere. All right. With that in mind, I think I'm going to call it quits for tonight. It's been a long week. I am quite tired. I want to get a little dinner and just chill. So, thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow and we're going to go at it again. And we're going to keep going until, like, I stop breaking airplanes and stop killing myself. All right. Thank you and have a great Friday night. Bye bye.